The dictionary says obsessed means completely focused on or preoccupied with something or someone to the point where it dominates your thoughts, your feelings, or actions. Are you obsessed with member experience? The obsession starts with really knowing your customer, and I mean really knowing your customer. And our guest in this episode is Amanda Stevens, the author of Radical Customer Obsession, and she'll be dropping amazing insights about your customers. In fact, if you have females aged 30 plus as customers, she's going to explain what their inner circle means for your business. This awesome interview starts in less than 2 minutes.
Welcome to the Fitness Business Podcast with your host, Justin Tamzett. With over 30 years in the fitness industry, JT is a globally recognised authority with a mission to lower healthcare costs worldwide by getting more people moving and moving more often in quality facilities with qualified professionals. Every episode, JT digs deep with our guests to bring you insights that will help you lead, innovate, and boost your bottom line. So let's dive in. Take it away, JT.
Since our last episode, Blair McCaney from MX Metrics delivered a superb webinar that adds a whole new layer of real knowledge to our member experience. The real data he shared with strategies and the nuggets of gold were so powerful. Now you can watch the replay if you're an FBP insider. If you're not, go to patreon.com/Fitness Business Podcast and become a member to get access not just to Blair's webinar, but the other 6 recordings of our webinars. By the way, you can get 7 days free to try it out. Patreon.com/Fitness Business Podcast or hit the link in the show notes. It's time for our Season 4 giveaway.
The FBP community might just want a fresh new voice. I'm Zoe and the Future Fitness Business Podcast host. You have the chance to win a $100 Amazon voucher to grow your professional library. Here's how it works. After the main interview, I'll drop a secret code word. Once you hear it, head over to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com/code word. Pop in the code and tell us in 30 words or less why you love the podcast. All right, let's get on to the main interview.
Amanda was a guest back in show 171. Link, that's in the show notes. And just like the Fitness Business Podcast, Amanda has come a long way. Since then, she's written 6 books, and her latest book, Radical Customer Obsession, is so relevant to our industry. And that's where I start today's chat. I ask Amanda if she thinks this is her best book she has ever written.
Yeah, look, I think, I've been speaking on this for a really long time and I've worked, I've spoken, I think, in probably, there's not many industries I haven't, if any, that I haven't presented to, like this week, for example. And that's what I love about this topic is that the variety is so incredible in terms of the application of it. So this week alone, I've spoken to pet store owners. I spoke for a hotel chain this morning. Tomorrow I'm speaking for a beauty group and the next day for a recruitment group. Opportunity, as I said, to be radically customer obsessed and to really think deeply about how your customers think, what their motivations are, what their priorities are, what they don't tell you, and more importantly, what's keeping them awake at night. I think the opportunity to connect with your customers, members, however you describe them now, is such a pertinent opportunity because it's such a noisy market out there. We've never seen a more digitally distracted consumer ever. So if you can really cut through that noise and reach not only the minds but the hearts of your potential customers, that's where you really get traction, and that's where you can, as I said, really make a really big difference in terms of your sales, your marketing, but more importantly, your long-term tenure and long-term loyalty and long-term customer advocacy.
Now, I love how in chapter 2, we should probably talk about chapter 1, but we're not. We're going to go straight to chapter 2. And you discuss the consumer of tomorrow. And this is particularly relevant for the fitness industry because you've got a whole section on wellness as a lifestyle. Can you give us some insights in what you learn about the consumer and wellness?
Yeah, absolutely. As a lot of your listeners would know, this is part of the fitness industry that's changing so quickly. We're seeing this collision, if you like, of fitness, wellness, anti-aging, and it's really changing rapidly amongst particularly younger demographics. Like if we look at anti-aging and preventative health, that was something that was for the over 50s traditionally, and now we're seeing that preventative health and anti-aging is really top of mind for much younger demographics. So they're looking, I think that the whole approach to exercise, nutrition and fitness has changed so dramatically, certainly in the last 10 years. And I think that there is this real opportunity to understand that for most of us, we are taking a much more holistic approach to our health. Fitness grazing continues to evolve. So not just a member of a gym. I've also got a Pilates membership. I also go to a health retreat 3 times a year. Looking at that holistic approach is certainly something that's continuing to drive and change and evolve consumer expectations when it comes to fitness overall.
And I don't think that's going to change. I think that's going to continue to evolve. I guess even the level of wellness will continue to increase for the average consumer.
Absolutely. I think we are going to see a little bit of a wealth divide there. Unfortunately, we're already starting to see that in terms of life expectancy, because a lot of the high-end anti-aging and longevity treatments that they're getting incredible results from are obviously right now kind of limited to the wealthy. But I think that will change as well. I think we'll see preventative health be much more accessible. There are anti-aging and preventative health. The investment in that right now that's bubbling away in the background is incredible. A few years ago, I got to go to Mecca Island and spend a week with Richard Branson, and he was talking about it back in 2018, that his prediction was that regular blood testing for early detection of all sorts of things is going to be mainstream, and we're certainly seeing that play out now. There's incredible investment. There's a chain, a clinic in Australia that just got a few $100 million in VC funding to open a whole chain right across Australia of these clinics that are specifically designed to basically take that blood test and test that blood across a whole range of different biomarkers for early detection. So I think that is going to be an absolute game changer in terms of people's approach to anti-aging and longevity.
Do you have any 5-star, rock star, the best companies that you've seen when you were writing the book that you studied? I know there's a couple there that we won't mention, Qantas. Are there any that absolutely freaking nail this that we could look at and go, we can learn from them?
Yeah, and I'm really glad you asked that question, because one of the recommendations I make in the book is that business owners should regularly go on kind of safaris, if you like, safari tours, not just in their own industry. Obviously, you and your Rex members do that regularly in terms of looking at best practice in the fitness industry. But I think we can learn a lot from other industries, seemingly unrelated industries. There's obviously in the book quite a few hospitality examples of whether it be a hotel, a restaurant that just absolutely nail it. There's obviously some warnings in there as well. And one of the chapters I write about, just how the whole approach to brand trust has changed. And if you look at the brand trust, the list of the most trusted brands in Australia right now, it's very different to what it was even just a couple of years ago. And in fact, brands that held the title of the most trusted brands in Australia for a long, long time are now on the list of the least trusted brands. So I think there's some real warnings in there about how brand trust now more than ever takes a long time to build, but can be lost, in a matter of minutes, literally. So I think that regularly looking at who is absolutely nailing it in other industries, we can learn a lot. For example, Mecca is one of the brands that I write about, have a case study on in the book, in terms of a retailer that has completely defied all of the cost of living and all the economic data. They've just opened a store in Melbourne. It's the largest beauty store in the world. I think club owners could learn a lot from looking at retailers that are just doing incredibly well, because what Mecca does incredibly well is they understand their customer intimately, obsessively and radically. And that's really enabled them to scale that business very quickly in what is a very, it's a very tough retail market. So I think, if I wanted listeners to take one kind of action item out of today, it's literally go on those tours. Go to one of the places I write about is Badara Island, which is just a masterclass in customer service. Go to Badara, make it a tax-deductible research tour, find the restaurants that are, doing exceptionally well, look at all of those different categories, go and see retailers and study what are they doing that's different. What are they doing that makes their business so sticky? What are they doing that makes customers want to return, but also become the raving fans for that brand and do all of their sort of sales and marketing for them?
And you talked about Mecca. I have a 16-year-old daughter, and she is a Mecca disciple. She's not even a customer. She's a disciple. She loves the brand. She gets the email that says you've got to come in by Friday, 5 o'clock to get your free whatever because you've spent X dollars that Dad doesn't know about. They should put that in brackets, actually. Dad never knew you spent this much money. They do know their customer well. They do a great job. I'm guessing in the US, maybe that's Sephora. They might do something similar. I do wonder sometimes, and I guess this is my cynicism about the fitness industry, Amanda, I wonder whether we actually know our customer well enough. And I wonder if we're too scared to dive deep into knowing a particular type of customer because we think, well, if we do that customer A, does that mean we disenfranchise customer B through to Z? Do you think that is that something we should be nervous about, or is it like, don't worry about that. There's enough A's to be able to make enough money.
When I say understand your customer, certainly understand your customer avatars. And most businesses will have more than one. You might have 5 different avatars, 5 different target sort of profiles. And I talk about this in the book in terms of understanding how the path to purchase differs for all of those 5 avatars, because it will be different depending on age, depending on demographic, and depending on what their motivations and priorities are. So it's not to say that you need to narrow your customer focus, but narrow it within those avatars and get very, very clear on what the customer journey looks like. Not just, when they walk in the door, but way before that. Really understand and also take a multi-layered approach to that. It's not just about understanding the path to purchase and what's happening at all of those different touch points. Also layering it with understanding what are their moods, what are their mindsets, what are the moments that are mattering. So really getting much more detail and really going much deeper into what's going on for that customer in the background way before you even become, on their consideration set. So I think having that intimate understanding is part of radical customer obsession. And then also understanding what goes on, long after it, what goes on after they leave your club, what would actually make them return. So I think we've got to really just get much broader and much deeper with our understanding of our customers across, all of those different avatars, and also personifying them. One of the examples I talk about in the book is a business that I've worked with. They have 3 core customer avatars, and they actually have personified those avatars to the point where they've given them a name. They actually have cardboard cutouts of those 3 avatars. And whenever they're having a main strategy session, they actually sit those cardboard cutouts at the table so that they have a seat at the table. They are literally putting their customers at the heart of everything that they do. So the more visible you can make your customers in your decision-making process, the more you can invite them and involve them in that process. Set up a customer or a member advisory board and get them to give you their perspective, the more, their perspective on everything from promotions to fit out. The more that you can have that consultative approach with your customers, your members. There's a saying that if you make people advisors, you make them advocates. So that's a really simple way to get a more customer-centric view of your business.
I think you've just come up with a new hashtag, by the way. Hashtag path to purchase. I like it. I like that one. Can I ask, are loyalty programs dead and buried, or are they the secret sauce to the stickiness to the brand?
Great question. And this was something, that I really did some deep thinking on as part of this, because again, that's something that's changing so rapidly. For me, I look at the loyalty programs that I'm a part of, the ones that make my life easy and that feel rewarding, because that's ultimately what a loyalty program should feel, and adding value and loyalty. It should be driving loyalty. I am members of loyalty programs that actually make me less loyal to the brand because they're so annoying and there's so much friction as part of the process. So, you've got to remember that also in this time in this new era that we're living in, time is the real currency that we're all trading in. If you are not acknowledging, respecting, or ideally saving time for your customers, forget about it. Because if you are costing them time or what you're asking them to do is taking up time, that's a friction point that there's very little acceptance of now. So loyalty programs that are really simple, really easy, save me time and drive loyalty. And I know that sounds simple, but it's not simplistic. Just don't make it complicated. Don't give me another thing to be a part of, and make it super rewarding. Gamify it. Add some surprise and delight in there. Don't just, look at how you can make it multidimensional and also make it fun, but most importantly, make it feel rewarding so that it drives loyalty.
I love that. I love that. Now, you've dropped some nuggets already. You give 10 strategies for unleashing radical customer obsession in your business. And listeners, we want you to buy the book. So we're not going to give you all 10 today. Absolutely not. Can you pick one that you think is hyper relevant to our industry?
I'll give you a couple, actually, because I'm all about adding value. That's part of being radically customer obsessed. So I think the big one, and I dedicated a lot of the book to it, is curiosity. So I think now is the time to get insanely curious about your customers. And I want your listeners to hear this really clearly. The members that you have in your club right now are not the same people that joined potentially.
Wow. Drop the mic, exit stage right. That's gold.
Yeah. So you will have a lot of members that are not the same person as when they joined. The question is, how have they changed? How are they changing? How are their needs changing? And are you keeping up with those needs? Because that's a hidden danger in your business. So I think that's the first, is injecting curiosity into everything that you do. I won't name names or even the industry, but I had a client recently say, Amanda, so you've written this new book. Based on what you know about our business and our industry, what do you think our customers think? And I said, have you asked them? Like, it's, again, so obvious, but just if you were inspired to do one thing as a result of listening to this podcast, just do some things that get you closer to your members. Walk the floor more. Invite 8 of your really good members to a lunch or something where you can actually just have a conversation with them to go, how are we going? How are you going? How are we going? We really want to get, your opinion matters. So what can we be doing better on this? And how could we improve that? And what do you think of this promotion? And what would make you invite your friends to join? These are the really simple yet really powerful questions, and you will get the answers to them. So it takes that guessing out of strategic planning for your club, for your business, whatever kind of business you have. So curiosity is the first one. I think the second one would have to be celebration. So I think just injecting, I don't know if you've noticed, but we've got cost of living pressures. People are under pressure in general. There's a bit of pain out there, and think that we have this opportunity to not just provide a functional fitness benefit to our customers, our members. We have an opportunity to make them really feel really good, and make our club or make our business or make our personal training business or whatever it is, to make it a safe haven and a place where they not only get results, but they also feel good about themselves, and they get something that they can't get anywhere else. So having a sense of celebration in everything that you do. I say to people, and again, it sounds simple, it's not simplistic. If you want your customers or your members to advocate for you, start by advocating for them. Like, celebrate their wins, be their advocates, be their cheer squad, make them feel good, pay them compliments. Just be their cheer squad, and that will have a boomerang effect on your business. So yeah, they're kind of I think the two big ones, that the big takeaways. I think really for those club owners listening to this, or people who have a business where that you have a team or even just one other person, radical customer obsession and having a great customer experience strategy that future-proofs your business, it has to start from the top down, but it also has to start from the inside out. So the greatest businesses that really have a sustainable, powerful customer experience strategy, it starts from within. So they actually make their internal customers, they start there and they make them the ambassadors and make them the advocates for the business, and then it can filter out. Because at the end of the day, customer experiences are really just employee experiences played out one by one. Again, if you want your people to be advocates for your business, start by being advocates for them, and then they will be advocates for your customers or your members. And I tell a great story. A great example of this is Oscar Wiley, which is an optometry brand in Australia. It hasn't been in Australia that long. It's a total challenger brand. It has taken on, the big brands in Australia, and it's doing very, very well. So I shopped in Oscar Wiley for the first time recently. And when I went to had my eye test, which was annoying because when you get to a certain age, your eyesight just falls off a cliff. And great experience with the optometrist. But then when it came to choose the frames, the woman who was helping me choose the frames, I could see that on the frames, they had not model numbers, like normally glasses have model numbers, like it might be the R690. These have names on them like, Clarissa or Chloe or Justin or Amanda or Zoe. And I was like, that's so weird. And she said, oh yeah, it's a really cool story actually. She said every year, every employee across Oscar Wiley gets to submit to head office a name that means something to them. It could be their own name, it could be their daughter's name or their son's name or their dog's name or whatever it is. And they are the names that are chosen for the new range for that year. And I thought, that's very clever. It's a great story for them to tell. Sure, it humanizes and personalizes the frames, but it also is a very clever retention strategy. If I'm working at Oscar Wiley and there's a frame on the floor that's called Ollie or Oliver, I'm going to think twice about leaving that job, right? So I think, again, customer experiences and a customer experience strategy doesn't need to be restricted to your end customer or your end members. Involve your team as much as you can. And again, gamify it for them. Ask them, how can we elevate every touch point? Involve them in the customer journey mapping exercise where you look at that path to purchase and you think about moods and moments and mindsets and get them involved in the process, and then they will have a much greater level of ownership over executing on that strategy.
That's a great story about the frames, and it kind of reminded me of something I used to say to club owners, and I need to start telling them again, and I think I know why I stopped. And when CrossFit was at its height of popularity, they had names of workouts, people's names. And I said to club owners, if you've got a personal trainer that's been with you for a year or 2 years, to celebrate that, they should design a workout that they can have on the wall for all members to do. They can do Amanda's workout. And I don't know why people just didn't do that, but because I think I was scared that if somebody left. But that's the legacy of that brand of trainer in the club. And I think that's a great insight on rewarding our own team.
Yeah, I mean, there's a great saying that if you connect your customers to each other, you strengthen the connection that they have to your brand. And this is why when I'm working in the fitness industry, one of the things I really recommend that club owners do is look at how, the question is, how shareable is your brand? How shareable are your memberships? And I don't mean sharing across, put the logistics aside of literally sharing memberships or transferring memberships. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how incentivized and rewarded am I as an existing member of your club to refer a friend? How rewarded do I feel for that? Because particularly with women, and this is a real insight here, particularly with women, we love to share brand experiences. And there's this dynamic called the inner circle, which is usually 2 or 3 other women. So women, we hunt in packs, basically. No. So because women are getting married later and having children later, what we're finding is that throughout their 20s and 30s, they're forming this, it's almost a pseudo family. It's usually 2 or 3 other women. And those 2 or 3 other women are usually the primary source of information about new products and services. And the research shows, and the fitness industry is the perfect example of this, depending on how much market share you have of a particular inner circle, that will determine tenure and loyalty. So for example, if I'm in an inner circle with 3 friends and I'm a member of your club, you have 25% market share of this inner circle. As soon as I refer one of my friends from that inner circle, so she's now a member as well, you now have 50% market share of this inner circle. The individual tenure and loyalty of the 2 of us actually creeps up, and it continues to creep up until the ultimate is that you've got all 4 of us. You've got 100% market share of this inner circle. That's where you have a bulletproof kind of strategy, because we are all more likely to stay longer and to be more loyal, and then to start replicating that, beyond that inner circle.
Potentially the other 3 will actually settle the water for you if as a business you did make a mistake.
They will actually defend you. If you really muck it up, you'll lose all 4. So it's high reward, high risk strategy. But it actually does kind of protect you more than you think a little bit, because the nature is if something happens, then the other 3 will generally go, what about this and what about that? But yeah, that inner circle strategy is super, super powerful. So I guess something to think about is how incentivized and rewarded, how easy is it for me to share refer a friend? And look, refer a friend has been a strategy that's driven a lot of fitness businesses over the years. And I think we need to in many respects, I think a lot of businesses need to get back to basics and think about strategies that still work. Refer a friend still works.
One more question for you. And before I get to that, if anybody is listening and they run conferences or events and they want you to speak at that conference or event, how do they get in contact with you?
I'm easy to find. Amanda Stevens is my name, and you just need to add the .com.au. So amandastevens.com.au. And if you forget that, I'm sure if you just Googled Amanda Stevens, you'd find me.
And for those listening, if you are overseas, she does travel. Has suitcase, will travel. All right. Last question. When this drops, we've got somewhere between 8 to 12 weeks before the end of the year. What advice do you give us to get our shit together in the last quarter of the year so that we come out of the gates in 2026 as a radically customer-obsessed business?
Really good question. One of the things that I talk about in the book is that customer experience and in fact customer journey mapping, for example, which is at the cornerstone of being radically customer obsessed. It's not a set and forget. It's not a revolution. It's actually an evolution, and it is more than ever. So the greatest thing you can do is not just set aside a few hours every year to sit down with the team and go, let's map out our customer journey. You've actually got to do it regularly. So I would recommend that if you are going to build momentum into 2026, make a decision to put customer obsession and customer experience on the agenda every single week. And, I'm a big believer in, as I said, not a revolution and evolution. I'm a big believer in the power of cumulative effect. So just have a huddle with your team every week and just pose this simple question. What's one thing we can do this week that elevates the experience for our members? Simply by putting that on the agenda and making it a weekly question and a weekly focus and a weekly obsession, hopefully, the little things add up eventually to be the big things. And as I said at the beginning of this chat, JT, I truly believe that customer experience in this AI era that we are well and truly catapulting into, and I'm here for it, by the way. I love AI. I love what it enables us to do. I love how it enables us to automate things and create things and be productive. But let me finish on this point because I think this is the most important one. In this AI era that we're in, 2 things for the fitness industry. 1, expertise is being commoditized. That's the bad news. The good news is that the way that you can rise above that, expertise being commoditized and devalued probably a little bit as well, is that the future of the customer experience is about kind of almost zigging while others are zagging. Because yes, harness technology, yes, dive into AI. And I know a lot of your listeners are already leveraging AI in some very, very cool ways. But the future of the customer experience, particularly for the fitness industry, is going to exist or going to sit at the intersection of high tech and high touch. When you can grasp and harness the best of high tech with the best of high touch, those human analog and algorithm can't compete with moments and touch points, that's where you future-proof your business. That's where you create a competitive advantage. And that's where you truly become radically customer obsessed.
My goodness, what a way to finish. That's fantastic. That is the greatest insight, that cross-section of high tech, high touch. Love it. We will put all of Amanda's details in the show notes. We'll put a link to be able to grab her book in the show notes as well. Amanda, as always, amazing insights from you around consumer, but also some great tips for marketing, service, staff management. Bloody marvelous. Thanks.
Thanks, JT. Thanks for having me, and I appreciate your support. And thanks for reading the book.
That was tremendous, Amanda. Thank you for sharing so much. Now, you can get the link to her book in the show notes, either on your podcast player or at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com.
Welcome to our 3-minute sponsors pitch on the Fitness Business Podcast. We spotlight a Rex Roundtable trusted supplier who provides innovative solutions to help you enhance your facility, boost member engagement, and increase profitability. Stay tuned to discover their suggested actions to elevate your fitness business to the next level.
Hi there, I'm Brittany Ficano. I'm a program director with Butterfly. We help gyms and fitness centers reduce operating costs and boost sustainability through smarter energy solutions by providing equipment upgrades at no upfront cost. For all my contact details, you can check out the show notes at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. The fitness industry is growing and evolving, but gym owners and operators continue to face serious financial pressure, especially when it comes to rising operating costs. To keep up, many fitness centers have had to raise membership fees. One study found that between 2020 and 2022, the average cost of a gym membership rose by more than 14%, and over 67% of gyms reported increasing their prices. There are several reasons behind these rising costs: supply chain issues, higher insurance premiums due to extreme weather, but one of the most significant ongoing expenses is something every facility must manage: utilities. Electricity, heating, cooling, lighting, and water usage, those all add up. And in a space where comfort and cleanliness are key, those energy needs are non-negotiable. That's where sustainability can make a real impact, not just environmentally, but also financially. Here's how. Gym goers prefer green facilities. A growing number of members care about environmental responsibility, and they're more likely to support gyms that align with their values. Lower energy and water bills. Smart upgrades can reduce utility bills significantly, which allows you to reinvest the savings elsewhere. Renewable energy sources like solar increase long-term savings and energy independence. Improved air quality and climate control create a more comfortable environment for members and staff. And overall, a sustainable facility enhances the member experience, giving you a competitive edge in a crowded market. Going green isn't just good for the planet, it's also good for business. If you're interested in learning more about how Butterfly partners with fitness centers to help them upgrade their facilities at no upfront cost, let's chat. My contact info is in the show notes at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com.
The trusted suppliers from Rex Roundtables this episode are eGym, providing digital fitness solutions and equipment. Butterfly, increasing energy efficiency with no upfront costs or risk. Lionel University, flexible online programs in exercise science. Evolt 360, providing body composition analysis technology. American Barbell, getting to you high quality fitness and strength equipment.
And the code word for this episode is customer experience. Go to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com/code word for the chance to win a $100 Amazon gift voucher. Use the word customer experience.
Here's the news on the next episode. We received massive feedback on episode 546 with Christopher Carter. You all loved him. So I tapped the shoulder of former guest Michelle Bowden to come back on the show and discuss more on the language choices that we use for persuasion. So here's a little tip. You can get Michelle's episode 7 days before anyone else when you become an FBP Insider. Plus, as an FBP Insider, Michelle has a resource for you with 7 tips on how to remember people's names even better. So go to patreon.com/fitnessbusinesspodcast, and for less than $5 a month, you get every episode ad-free 7 days early, plus awesome resources from our guests. Our FBP Insiders would totally agree that we are living Pericles' vision. What we leave behind is not set in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others.